overnight, you waking up and then Meta changed their algorithms.
The British working culture, particularly in marketing, just isn't well suited to my personality type.
Criticism in marketing feels really personal. No, I don't like it. This is shit.
Is there anything you miss about marketing?
Marketers are kind of like a bit crazy people because kind of like, yeah, we like live on the roller coaster.
I almost got through an episode without saying the phrase AI. Exhaustion, cynicism, and that creeping sense that you're not actually good at your job anymore. These are the most common symptoms of burnout according to the World Health Organization. Gallup's 2026 Global Workforce Report puts engagement at just 20%, the lowest level since 2020. Women in leadership and middle managers are getting hit the hardest. But what about marketers? A profession that's built on constant deadlines and always on channels. I'm Scott, and on Birch Talks, we focus on the human side of marketing, sharing inspiring stories and specific frameworks to help you build campaigns you're proud of. Today, we're joined by Olha Dovopola. Olha built a successful career in marketing, but then switched careers to become a corporate psychologist. She now helps corporate employees deal with stress and burnout. Yeah, we were just talking about the fact that you spent 8 years in marketing and now you're a corporate psychologist. And I would love to know more about your personal experience and that change in your career. I think anyone's pivot in a career is interesting to me, but particularly after 8 years in marketing. So I'd love to know the story behind that.
So basically, yeah, I was working 8 years in marketing and I'm originally from Ukraine. So I started my career in there. I started from the low position and I got to the marketing manager in Kyiv Zoo. So kind of like I was working there. And then since I relocated to the UK, I was working in different positions in here. I was working in the marketing agency. I was working as head of marketing in e-commerce brand. You know, it was fun. And I love marketing because it's so diverse, it's so dynamic, but at the same time, it's kind of like a problem with this profession. In my career, I faced 2 times a really heavy burnout. I understood that I started to have anxiety mornings, what I call. It's kind of like on Saturday morning, I could wake up at 5 a.m. and my heart would be racing. It's kind of like I was, I don't know, running 10 kilometers just right now. And then because I was thinking that, oh, on Monday I need to go to work. And then a year ago, when that was a Easter bank holiday, and I received a really tough phone call on the weekend from my manager saying that whatever we planned for weeks wasn't working and we need to make huge change. And then I understood that kind of like, oh, that's enough. Like I started literally shaking, like physically shaking, because I couldn't cope in any other way. And I just like sat down with myself and asked myself a question and like, okay, I want to leave, but it's really difficult for me to leave. I have really huge perspective in this workplace, but kind of like, does it make me happy? And I was like, no, it's not. And I'm like, okay, but why am I feeling guilty? And then out of all this like inner conversation, I understood that I pushed myself so hard because I wanted my parents to be proud of me. Basically, I called my mom and I'm like, okay, mom, this is the thing. This is what I discovered. I want to quit my job, but I have this, I don't know, inner image that you will judge me and you will be disappointed. We had a good conversation and then I quit the job. That's basically the story how I quit the marketing. But in the meantime, so I started my personal journey in therapy in 2019. And I understood that kind of like, oh, I have some qualities that can be suitable for the position of therapist. So in 2020, I started my 5-year course as a Gestalt therapist, and I finished it last year. So yeah, and after that, I started to collaborate with companies, with startups, or like with big ones. I have a lot of marketers actually in my individual therapy, uh, which is interesting.
How has that, I guess, deep rooted anxiety of your parents not being proud, has that changed at all as a result of this pivot for you?
Yeah, yeah. So basically, during that call, when I spoke with my mom, I started crying. I was in the tram and I started crying when I was talking. And I'm like, I don't care what people think about it. I just have a mental tantrum, in the middle of the tram just because I can't cope with it anymore. And yeah, so basically, during that conversation, she said to me that, like, for her, the main thing is my happiness, and whatever will bring it to me, she's happy with that.
Is there anything you miss about marketing?
I think I like people and brainstorming. A lot of people kind of like we all kind of like in the room and everybody is brainstorming. Yeah, when you kind of like shape and the concept and you see that it's kind of like everybody's impact in that, and you see that the vision as real,
Mm.
you know? It's kind of like, yeah, I miss that a lot.
Yeah, because when you describe marketing and the diversity of marketing, basically everything that you said is what I love about marketing too. I'm still in marketing because I consult and freelance across a number of different areas, including marketing. I was an agency owner, so my life was marketing nonstop for 15 years, and I love that dynamism. But interestingly, again, reflecting on you talking there, I experienced all the same things that you did, um, and it burned me out. And I went through periods of high anxiety, completely managed it, it sounds, and it presented itself in me in different ways to you. And that aspect that I've learned through myself and through therapy for myself is also interesting. I can't remember how once kind of therapists and doctors describe it, but I'm someone that's non-presenting of symptoms of stress, so I don't display
Mhm.
any of it, and I guess I internalize it and just keep going and
You
keep
just
going.
hold it and
Yeah.
suppress it.
I'm a millennial in that generation.
Same.
You know, my friends are millennials, and all I see and read are about how, this impacts millennials more than it did the previous generation, this aspect of working till you're burnt out. And all I hear is our generation's working harder than ever. We're all burnt out. Is this a problem that encompasses all industries and sectors? Is it specific to some? Talk to me about that.
Yeah, so I think the burnout in general is really common within millennials, because I think we all heard in our childhood that we're not really good enough, that we need to push ourselves more, that kind of like, oh, why did you have uh, B and not A? Why
Uh-huh.
they can do that and you can't? And kind of like the data shows that, like, recent research in 2024 showcase that it's like 70% of media and marketing employees have risk of burnout, compares to 53% from workers in other area. And that was the research conducted within 2K people among UK, US, Australia, and New Zealand. So it's kind of like really diverse group of people. But also we need to think of, like, I think the huge limitation of every research that we will be talking about, that most of the research was done in the Western culture.
Mm,
I think when people are facing burnout, they think that they are in a minority.
mm,
When data is showing that this is a real major problem. And another research showed that 57% of marketers have burnout age 25 to 33. It's kind of like a mid level. Um,
Mm.
employees, mid-level.
What's interesting to me there is that, like, for that age group, number one, it's so young, and number two, there'll be some people in that group that just come straight out of university, get their first job in marketing, and then will experience burnout in their first job, and they must think, "Like, I did not sign up for this. What's happening in life?"
But I think, they have a bit of a what's it called, like a compensation. They want to show themselves. They
Mm.
have the drive, that have energy, and I think they don't really have the previous experience, which can be handy. Sometimes you don't have the comparison. But unfortunately, a lot of times in our life, we learned from what we don't want to be and how we don't want to be treated rather than the opposite way. But the millennials, I think, or kind of like people aged 25, 33, they kind of like in a difficult position because they have expectation from their management, but they already have some people they are supposed to manage, or kind of like if you work, for example, in marketing agency, you have freelancers that you need to manage. You need to speak with clients. And it's constant pressure, which, yeah, makes it kind of like a bit leave on the edge.
Most teams plan every campaign in a spreadsheet, then rebuild the whole thing by hand in Ads Manager, burning time in a copy-paste exercise. With Birch, that sheet is the ultimate ad launcher. Stage maps your copy, your URLs, your creatives from Drive, and builds the ads for you. Scandinavia reclaimed about 40% of their weekly campaign time with Birch. Skip the rebuild. Only in June, the first 2 months are on us. YouTube exclusive. Find the promo code in the description and apply it after your free trial.
Let's talk about this then. So the data shows that the chance of burnout is, or the experience of burnout is higher in marketing than other comparative sectors or other sectors. My question, as you were talking that through, is why? What is different about marketing? You've experienced it firsthand, and you've just
Yeah.
noted that you are a therapist for people, for marketers as well. So you've got a kind of a full picture of this.
When somebody asks you kind of like, oh, why marketers? That's all poor marketers. Oh my God, what is happening with them? Like, why? I work in finance and I have like a lot of pressure, I work in law and I have a lot of pressure and responsibilities as well. But the first thing that other profession and a lot of other professions have, it's a structure and predictability.
Mm.
Unfortunate marketers, most of our lives, we don't have that. Because you can plan a campaign, you can plan, I don't know, a targeting campaign or whatever. You can predict that, oh, this is the KPI and this is the budget that we want to spend. And then overnight, you waking up and then Meta change their algorithms. You're just like, okay, so all the knowledge and my experience that I was using, I need to kind of like rebuild the strategy. Or social media marketers, I don't know, yeah, they build again the launch campaign, how to kind of like warm up people around the new product, how to talk about it. And then, for example, Instagram changed the algorithm. Or um, one celebrities using that product and received a lot of criticism, and just like, okay, so like I need to manage and rebuild.
Mm.
And it's, of course, life in general is unpredictable. I remember when I was working in marketing, kind of like I was reading a lot of forums. I was reading constantly this like updates, Shopify updates. I was reading, yeah, like other marketers who kind of like was checking the field and kind of like, oh, this is a sign of this will happen and this is the sign of that will happen. And you already like you need to conduct your work right now, but you already planning that like, oh, in 3 months this will happen. So the campaign that I will plan in 3 months, we should implement this. and I also remember once we had a bit of a frustrating story. So we conducted a targeting campaign, and we were doing like five creatives in one campaign, and like three were like really um, good creatives who put a lot of effort in wording, in colors, in shaping, and kind of like composition and stuff like that. And two were like, oh, okay, so let's just like do something simple. Maybe people will buy it, but kind of like just to track the KPI. And what frustrating was the thing that you put all your heart in usually would collect less clicks, less traffic, and some like simple stuff, kind of like simple graphic um would do the job. So this is the first, I think, issue is constant unpredictability. So, and the second one, I think, and what I've seen a lot right now, especially on LinkedIn, kind of like you're looking for job titles that kind of like, oh, we want marketing manager, and then the position description, you need to do SMM, you need to do email marketing, you need to do strategy, you need to do launch campaign, you need to do digital marketing, you need to do offline marketing, you need to do targeting as well. And it's basically kind of like I'm not the unicorn,
Hmm.
or like I'm not an octopus, because of this feeling of not being good enough. We try to prove ourselves
Hmm.
and prove that kind of like, oh, we are worthy. Because for me, I don't know how that was for you. You can maybe like share your experience, but for me, yeah, money is great and it's good to have a good salary, but for me was really valuable when my boss would come to me and say like, oh yeah, this looks great, kind of like the approve from somebody who is kind of like higher than you.
That's an interesting one because that's another part of marketing that I think is difficult. Everything you said there's difficult and unique to marketing, I think, and some other closely related sectors. But approval, so where you receive credit and praise from, is interesting in marketing because I guess I don't know, maybe it's my personality type, but I knew coming into marketing that I'm a very stoic character in general. So I take kind of praise and criticism with fairly equal measure. And I've always been that way. I think it's just part of my personality. But at some point in my career in marketing, I did kind of acknowledge that and realize that I can't give whether my client likes a piece of work that I do or not, I can't let that impact my confidence because you're outsourcing your confidence to so many different people in your team, to your clients, to your boss, and it's just too much. And
Yeah.
I think that is unique to marketing. Not that you have to be, I think probably as we're talking, we'll probably talk about the concept, like what resilience is, and that in marketing, and that gets talked about a lot in marketing. But I think for me, I guess I accepted early on in my career that my confidence had to come from myself and the knowledge that I've done the best job that I could that's possible. And everything else is outside of my control. And I think actually, kind of what I'm summarizing in my mind about what you're talking about is there just so many factors that are outside our control in marketing. And that leads to the unpredictable nature of it all. It's interesting that you talked about your parents early on because some people just they want their managers or their teammates to just give like the praise is so important to their confidence. And I understand it from a psychological standpoint why it's important, but I just think it's so dangerous because if you move into marketing and you require that, you're going to get beaten up because you're never going to get all of the praise and credit that you need, that external confidence for yourself.
Yeah. And I think the workplace is not the best place to search for that. I don't know if you know, there is a really good book called Five Languages of Love. It's based on the research. And I think it's even like online survey that you can check what your love language is. So is either words of affirmation, physical touch, help, quality time, and presence.
Mm.
Usually, people are checking it in romantic relationship, but I think some of that can correlate somehow into your workplace. And interestingly, that you mentioned this, the kind of like approval from your ideas, because actually that was my third point, like about this topic, that criticism in marketing feels really personal.
Mhm.
Because when you create something, you put your like part of yourself, part of your individuality in that idea, why it is important for you. And then when somebody is saying it, and to be honest, I need to be fair that like in British society, in British workplace, it's a bit like softer than in Eastern European countries,
Mm.
because in British workplace, they would be like, I like it very much, and this is good, and this is so they will give positives first, and then, but if we could change this and this and this, what do you think about it? When in Eastern Europe, they will be like, no, I don't like it. This is shit, and you did a bad job. And then after that meeting, you're going, oh my God, not just my work is bad.
Mm.
I'm bad as a person because I product them. Like I created that. So that means that I'm bad. And the tricky thing is, if we're talking about this like not good enough, employer usually will feel and see that. And unfortunately, most of them would use it for their benefit.
Mm.
They're kind of like, oh, you don't feel that you're good enough. Okay, what if I will give you extra work?
You mentioned somewhere as you were talking LinkedIn, and another interesting aspect of this for me is that we have all of these things going on as marketers, but by comparison to some other careers, you're chronically online. So you come home, you've still got your phone, maybe you switch on something like Netflix, there's an ad, there's something that reminds you of work. You're always connected in some way. LinkedIn is especially an interesting place because you can jump on LinkedIn and I would say over the last 10 years, I've seen more discussions around this topic in marketing, but I've also seen on the flip side just far, far more self-promotional content, very beautified. This is nothing new. We've talked about this for 10, 15 years now. People presenting one version of their lives, which actually isn't the full reality. And
Yeah.
then that adds to everything that we're talking about. You look at this, you get to the end of the day, maybe you're scrolling home, you're on your commute, and all you're doing is seeing everyone's wins. And you're like, hang on, everyone else is winning. And I'm just here, you know,
Everybody's
s-
perfect, but not me.
everybody's, yeah, but not me. Yeah.
There is actually a study that was conducted around the pandemic that showed that basically the separation between work and home right now is kind of like really blurred,
Mhm.
because we work from home, we, we sleep at home, we have our friends at home, we have our babies or like whatever, like at home. So then we associate home with work
Mm.
sometimes. And once I remember I read a theory that every person need three places just to be kind of like fulfilled. So one is home, the second one is work, and the third one is the, I don't know, the community place. So being chronically online and developing your personal brand as much as the business brand, basically it's a huge pressure or on marketers as well, that kind of like you need to conduct your personal brand and you
Mm.
need to against all of that. So then, I don't know, other people will see that you're cool, and then maybe another employee will kind of like hire you just because you're cool and stuff like that.
I thought that was a good tip just to take away in general, just a really simple way of, anyone that's watching or listening to this. I was thinking about it for myself. I've just moved to London from Brighton in the UK. And so I actually moved this week. I'm in a totally new place.
Okay.
And also I have a home studio. So I'm recording from home at the moment. But of course I've got to get about. So I've got to find my workplace that's outside of the home. I'm in the middle of my home. This studio is nicely presented at the moment, but the rest of my apartment is not nicely. There's boxes everywhere, and I don't have a community yet. I'm in a new place. I haven't really found those people. What I'm going to be doing yet. So I was thinking, right for me right now, it's I don't know about stressful because I'm excited, but it's certainly not stable. I don't have those three places of stability, and so maybe for
Yeah.
me, as a tip, it would be to think about, okay, what are those three places that if I look at my life right now, how can I get those three things in place? And I think you're right. If I do have those three things in place, my well-being will probably be better.
Society is really important for us and for marketers as well. Like as I mentioned at the beginning, I miss that. I miss the community, because then like marketers are kind of like a bit crazy people, because kind of like, yeah, we like live on the roller coaster.
Mm.
And when you at the office and you kind of like discuss the idea, you surround yourself with like-minded people, and that doesn't feel weird or
Mm.
strange. You feel belong and understood.
What are some other resources or recommendations for people that are experiencing this that are your typical go-tos? So, I'm assuming, for example, therapy would be on your recommendations. Is that maybe that's something you could consider in certain circumstances? Are there any things that come to mind for you where you say these are the things that you need to consider doing? What comes to mind when I say that?
I can tell you this, that I think everybody knows that you need to take long walks, you
Hmm.
need to switch off, you need to spend more times with your family and friends. I think the main thing is to understand the level of, let's say, burnout or kind of like stress that you have in life. And then depends on that, choose the strategy. When, for example, the work is the only thing that is stressing you in life, and like you need to understand, while taking the stressor away, how do you feel? Do you feel lighter? Do you feel brighter? Do you feel like your energy is kind of like you have it again, and you're willing to leave is kind of like thriving again? Then maybe the job environment needs a bit adjusted. I don't know, the different time of your productivity. For example, there are different people, like they can be productive in different time of the day. Somebody can be productive from 6 a.m. till 8, but they need to be at the office at 9
Mm.
when they are not really productive. Some people are more productive when they're home, but they are forced to go on site 5 days a week and be distracted, with all talks and small talks, the coffee, and then this meeting that can be just in email.
Mhm.
Uh, so maybe readjusting, and then to see when you're taking this pause from work, like, yeah, from stressor, when you're coming back, if you feel deflated in a week or so after you're back, then the issue may be major that you anticipated. With the moderate burnout, it's usually heavier, and like after taking a pause, the willing to leave this life and to thrive and do the job is not coming back. So then, yeah, I would recommend to readjust your work settings, and then to go through therapy. in the UK, the most popular therapy type is CBT, uh, which I think is good for some people, but maybe for some people it's not really suitable because they have all these frames, and expectations living in the box in their life, and then when they go to therapy they need to do homework, they need to do 1 2 3 4 5, and it's not really suitable for everyone. Some people need maybe more abstract, therapy ways, kind of like a Gestalt, just to think about some existential issues that you might face. If we're talking about severe burnout, which, to be honest, I had a few times, then the recovery process, it can take from 6 months up to a few years. And some research even show, like, there are a lot of research about burnout and high functioning depression in the workplace. Some research show that even after 4 years without work, it's still difficult to manage of coming back. So in that circumstances, I think it's important to redesign, face the question, do I still want to do that? Or do I want to do something else? What will bring me joy? Not to my parents, not to LinkedIn followers, not to somebody else. And it is also a really heavy topic, and it's a really heavy question, because when you lost and you burn out, you don't have any willing to anything, you don't care about anything. How can you answer what do you want? So basically all the previous steps that I mentioned, that kind of like to readjust your work settings, take some pauses in the working process, take some therapy, and try to prioritize. Also, it is important to ask for help. I know it's difficult for some people, especially for for high achievers who have this issue of being not good enough, and kind of like, oh, how I will ask somebody for help, how I will ask, I don't know, even like my line manager, that like I don't feel cheerful today, and I just need to see it in the room alone. Or kind of like, it's better for me to go home and work from home and kind of like cry while doing your task, because you have just like that state.
You mentioned earlier how different cultures approach these topics and recovery from these topics, and that we're talking a lot in, speaking now about Western culture mainly. What I've experienced just getting older, traveling around, experiencing different cultures a little bit more, is that I feel like my personality type, my approach to work seems much more like, maybe like, I like the idea of Spain and siestas and that slow approach to the day, and what, like, there's a lot that can be said, I think, for thinking about the location and the culture that you're in, how that matches your needs as a person. And I think maybe something that I've accepted after 15 years working in the UK and, growing up here, is that actually the British working culture, particularly in marketing, just isn't well suited to my personality type. There are a lot of aspects of it that I don't enjoy, and I need to seek something else. Um, I need to seek different communication styles, feedback styles, working practices that just aren't akin to UK culture. You're in Manchester now, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you're in Manchester. I mean, even in the UK, different, like the north, and people's working culture in the north is different to the south, and there are different aspects there. But yeah, what have you seen in terms of cultural approaches to burnout, depression, anxiety. So, are there any countries or cultures where you think people are really finding the right way to help people avoid burnout?
So, to be honest, just a bit of a disclaimer. So, it is sunny right now in Manchester, and talking about the working culture in the UK and how they cope with this, I assume, and it's Friday and it's like soon will be afternoon, I assume a lot of people will be in the beer garden, like really soon, because when it's sunny in the UK, everybody is outside. But yeah, if we're not talking just about UK, but like about Europe in general,
Mm.
I think I will not yeah, make a discovery when I say that Scandinavia's country right now, even research shows that kind of like they provide the most helpful, the most safe work environment regarding the mental health, because they have a lot of social support infrastructure. They have the culture where seeking for help is um, is okay, is not stigmatized. That you're just a human. Um, in Actually, in 2017 in France, they created a law by which they protected employees from answering and like working outside of their working hours. And it's beneficial for employees because they are protected, but it wasn't created just for that. It was created with the meaning of employer to create a healthy work environment. Actually, in the UK and in a lot of in Germany, Iceland, right now is happening a bit of a pivotal moment with conducting and implementing 4 days work week. The research and kind of like what I observed showed that productivity is even higher than they were going 5 days to the office, because I don't know, people feel that they been cared about, that they have this extra day to spend with family, to rest and not to think about work. I know it's difficult when companies doing marketing, again, about this pressure being constant online, constant delivery information, constant looking for news updates, constant tracking your data for your ads and stuff like that. But I think even in that circumstances it can be managed. Yeah, if people open for that. And I think what is again happening when people are hiring corporate psychology as the part of the team, and not um not as the benefit just to sell the role or kind of like the company more, but and not as the spy. Most people think like that, and kind of like, oh, I will tell them something, and kind of like they will tell it to my boss and stuff. But to create the atmosphere, like the trustworthy atmosphere where people can talk truly and openly about what is happening with them and how to adjust the workplace that it would be suitable for everyone, kind of like how to teach management team how to support in the right way, because for somebody you need to increase their salary. For someone you need just to take them for a drink. For
Hmm.
somebody you just need to, I don't know, give them a chocolate and say like, oh my god, your last campaign was wow. Or somebody need to have a bell in the office and they shout that they did something great. So kind of like each of us, we are truly unique.
The data reinforces to me what I've kind of experienced firsthand, in that I've looked around the room sometimes and seen colleagues and peers and people I've managed struggling. And the data reinforces what I believe and what I've experienced to be true. And so I think what you just said there is great, and a great closing note, in that not only not are you alone, you are in the majority. And I think that's the thing, is the imbalance of the exposure of the topic by comparison to everyone's wins. You would imagine that this is less of a problem because more people are speaking about their wins when you come online. you see day-to-day noise in marketing in particular.
Yeah.
I almost got through an episode without saying the phrase AI, but I didn't manage it entirely. But AI is disrupting marketing and other industries right now. And yeah, we're all going through something that's disruptive and developing in marketing. So on that note, though, and in closing, if people want to find out more about you, the topics you talk about, where can people find you?
Yeah, then people can find me on LinkedIn, of course.
LinkedIn?
Olha Dovopola. Yeah, I'm providing individual therapy, and I work with companies as a corporate psychologist to support employees and senior team to manage through crisis, and HR team actually, because they, I think, hear the most of the complaints, and sometimes, I think they feel helpless even because
Hmm.
they don't know what to do. That it's not their job to deal with that.
What's the workplace habit that's burning you out the fastest? Let us know in the comments, and hit subscribe to Birch Talks so you don't miss our next video.